Okay, so we're ready for the next phase of this project. First, gonna make a little something that I think will be helpful. So I'm gonna have you do this. Just take a page, blank page from your regular sketchbook, your small sketchbook. Just tear out a page. And then I'm just gonna put this here. You don't. I just put it on there so I could work on it. And I'm just going to draw a square in the middle. It's going to be approximately in the middle, a 1-inch square. I'm just doing this with a ballpoint pen, and I'm just doesn't have to be too precise. Okay, so I have drawn that square, and then in either direction, just draw a diagonal through the corners and just extend that diagonal all the way across the paper like that. Okay? All right. Next thing is, I'm going to take that away, and you're going to fold the paper right along that diagonal line. Okay. Okay. Oops, forgot scissors. Hold on. Okay. And then with that folded like that, just cut the folded piece up this way, and then this way, and just so you have a square. Okay, you got a 1-inch square hole. And the reason that this is going to be helpful to have, and and again, it doesn't have to be perfect, is you're going to use this square to isolate various squares on the thing you're trying to copy, okay, on the painting picture. And by isolating it, you'll be able to see the square's value a little better. Okay, because what we're going to do now is we're going to analyze each square and determine whether it's light or dark. Okay, and the first light or dark decision we're going to make, the first analysis, is going to be 50%. You know, when you analyze something, you're breaking it down. That's what analysis is, breaking things down. And when you break something down, first you divide it into large chunks, and then you take those large chunks and you divide those down into smaller chunks. That's true of any kind of analysis. You're going to break something down into big pieces, and then you break something down into smaller pieces. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to, with this grid, we're going to break this drawing down into two basically large pieces. The very light and very dark. And then we're going to subdivide that into the smaller pieces. Okay. So, this first one is called 50%. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to each square in the painting, and we're going to decide if each square is basically more than 50% dark or less than 50% dark. And if it's more than 50% dark, 51%, 52%, just more than 50%, anything over what we think is 50%, we're going to make that whole square black. So let's look at this for example here. This square, A1, if I look at that, it's not black. It's not completely black, but it has a very large dark element in it, and most of the square is given over to dark. So I think that is more than 50% gray. So that means I'm going to make this whole square black. When we're done with this, you're going to have a checkerboard of absolutely black squares and absolutely white squares. Okay? So this actually shouldn't take you, this 50% one shouldn't take you that long, because it's really just making black squares and white squares. You're not trying to copy this image. You're not trying to draw it as it is. You're not trying to make a nice exact copy. You're just trying to determine each square. Do I think it's more than 50% gray or less? And you may say, well, how do I determine that? Well, this is the part that relies on you honing your judgment, for you to sharpen your judgment and in analysis. So you have to, what you got to do is, I think the way to imagine it is, you have to imagine that you have this isolated square and you could stir it up. That is, you could stir up all the colors and the values, the white, the light, the dark, the medium. If you imagine that you stirred that up, would that resulting mix be lighter than sort of a half-tone gray, or would it be a little darker? You know, think about your gray scale. Think about, we drew a charcoal gray scale from 1 to 12 tones. Would this, if I mix this together, do I think it would be over 6, 7 darker? Or do I think it would be more in the 4 or 5 range, or lower? And if it's lower in your mind, you know, this is a mental judgment exercise. If you look at that and you think, I think it's less than half the way across the grayscale, then just leave the square blank. It's white. If you think it's more, it's very dark, or it's just a little bit more than dark, then make it black. So just blacken it in. And the whole square, just the whole square like that. So I'll just do a couple more. I think this next one should also be black. The next one, kind of tricky, but I think I'm going to go black with that. And then E, that was D. Okay, then D, yeah, all 4 of these. Black. But then E is white. Okay, it just has a little bit of something in it. The next one, you know, although it's got some in it, I think it's less, so I'm going to leave that one white. That one is, well, it's halfway gray, but it's not real dark, so I think I'm going to leave that one and that one. This one, though, I think I'm going to make dark, because it has a lot less, has more dark in it. Here. And one thing to do is to go to real obvious ones. Like, okay, I could go to F, I could go to 3F. You don't have to do it in order. 3F is definitely black. So, you know, you can. I think it's a good idea. Do the ones that are like obvious, like, oh, that's definitely true. Save the ones that are hard, that are like require judgment. Save those for later. Do the ones that are very, very clearly obvious. Okay, and you're just making them black, or you're leaving them white. Now, I'm not going to do the whole thing. While you watch, we'll skip ahead, and I'll do it, and we'll come back and take a look. All right, so you get a sense of what your final product should look like. It should just be black squares and white squares. And I just want you to give some thought. Do this consciously and think about. I think sometimes it's hard the ones to leave white because you think, oh, but there is some tone in there. There's some darkness to the square. But sometimes it's hard to make yourself leave those ones blank. But leave those ones blank if you just think that it doesn't amount to enough to tip the balance over, to dark. But if you get something that looks pretty much like this and there seems to be some organization to it, then good. You've done a good job, and that's all you need to do for the 50% project. And it'll take a little longer to do the next one, the 20%. Okay, that's all.